Going to get everything ready to go, and then at that point we can go ahead and release our job. So go ahead, if you want to release the job, just uncheck that little box.
This?
No, the one below.
Huh?
No. Right.
Oh,
And now go ahead and check it again.
check one.
That way the next job that comes in, it'll hold it, but it'll run this one. So now you see that it ran it, so it can actually start running. Look, it'll say please wait because it's getting itself set up.
It looks like it starts heating up too at the same time.
No, that was just coincidence because they're separate from each other. They aren't communicating. That's not communicating with this. They have their own CPU brain separately.
So it's manual,
It is.
which is okay. I think we might be able to use it.
And if it,
But if we don't use this bottom part for certain
you
job,
can just shut it off, but make sure that you run that cleanup cycle before you shut it down, so that the rollers get washed with water. Remember, and then shut it down, and then you can leave it shut down. If that's the case, and just make sure you empty your gum bottle and stuff. You don't want gum in. Anytime gum's in there, just keep this in mind. Anytime that just an empty bottle, leave it on there. But anytime there's gum in there, the machine should be on. Think of it that way, because otherwise you take a chance of shutting it down for days with the roller sticky, and you don't want to do that.
so before we shut it down, we should take the gum out of it and
Put the warm water, run the cycle number 4, which those sheets showed.
Yeah.
And then it takes like 10 minutes, and that's going to clean those rollers up. It's going to run that warm water over the rollers.
Right.
Then when that's finished, then you can shut it all down.
I don't have to take the warm water
I'll
out.
definitely take that off, because that would grow algae after a while. So take the warm water off and dump it, and you can just leave the bottles off then, because you're not
So
running
you
it
don't
then.
need, we don't need
If you're not going to run it, but
okay.
you may have to. You'd have to see once you print.
So once you want to use the bottom part, then you put the gum out,
Right.
screw it in, and then run it through.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to use the
If
gum.
you don't want to use it, we don't need to put the gum up, screw it in.
Right.
No, right? Just empty bottle. Just empty bottle.
Or an empty
No.
bottle or no bottle. You
No
can have
bottle.
either
Oh, no
one.
bottle.
Either
Okay.
one. Yeah. And that's only if you're not going to use it at all.
So it really takes time to print one image.
Yeah. I don't know if it was ready.
It's printing.
Oh, there it goes now. It just started printing. So now you'll actually see your plate moving now. Wait, it just now pulled it in, so now it'll start to print. And you'll see it moving slowly as it prints. No, after it prints, then at that point, you'll take it and you run it through the
Right.
curing unit. Yeah.
And then for the second one, what do you do?
Just load the next plate.
Doesn't matter.
But you have to wait till this is out and this says ready. Or it won't let you load the next plate.
okay.
Yeah, it always has to say ready before you load another plate.
So plate should be ready first before we cue the image, right?
Right, and you want to make sure you put the right plate in. Meaning, because you have 2 different plates.
Oh, we're going to probably keep using this size
Oh, okay.
for a while.
Okay.
So, yes, that's okay. So that I just want to remember the connection between this and that.
Yeah, this is releasing the job to put it into the
Right,
plate.
okay.
Yeah. So now we should see the palm trees.
But even if by mistake I release the image, but if the plate is not ready here, then it's not going to do anything until I put the plate in, right?
Yep.
Smart machine. Before you go away, I want to know the email address again, how to order these plates and stuff.
Actually, that would be your salesman. I think it's Mark Robinson.
Mark Robinson?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys contact. Yeah, but I think you emailed him about storage supplies, so I think you should have it. Yeah, you should have it.
Okay, and when it's finished, it'll be loose, and I can just grab it out of here, even though it still says printing. Now it says paper out, and it came back to ready. So now you'd be safe to load it.
Oh,
Now, if you
this isn't black, but that's blue.
keep in mind, this doesn't have colored ink in it. This is fluid that has a dye in it.
Oh, that's why
So
it
if you
is
print a cyan plate or a
Yeah.
magenta plate, they're
Yeah.
all going to be blue. The image is going to be blue, but it'll actually be the characteristics of that color. So if you would have printed this job with the CMY Builder Black,
Yeah.
you would have had a cyan, a magenta, and a yellow with different layers of that color to make this black. That's
But
why
it's
you only
gonna be
want.
all like a blue.
Oh, it'll always be blue in color
Oh,
on the
okay,
plate.
okay, I see.
But your ink then, whatever ink you're using.
I know, but
be
we
the
can't see which one is cyan and
No,
unless
the only way you
we
can do
kind of
that
mark it.
is if you put, and some people do that, some
Yeah.
of my customers who have imposition software,
Yeah.
and they'll actually put the color in the name and they'll have it on, they call it a slug line,
Oh.
and they'll have it on the plate, so they'd know that this is Pantone 230 or it's black or whatever, yeah.
Can we mark it out then? Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so at this point, if we were going to run it through the processor, the curing unit, I would sit it down here, and you'll see that as soon as, after a little bit, I just made sure it was over that first sensor. Now you can see the light kicking on, and then you should see this, it's going to slowly move. And that's how slow it's going to move through there. Because it's going to make sure it bakes that image on there, then it'll gum it, and then it'll dry it and come out. So you could be making your next plate if you were making multiple plates now.
Oh, okay.
Right. Until that would be in, you just want to make sure you leave at least a 2-inch. They recommend 50 millimeters. It's a little under 2 inches. Just leave about 2 inches between each plate, so that they would never come into contact.
You mean the top?
Correct.
Okay.
So if you were getting ready to put your next plate on, you'd want to wait a while till it's in there, and don't have it any closer than 2 inches to the next plate. And they also have a recommendation. I don't know if you guys are going to be running at this rate, but if you run 4 to 8 plates in a row, they recommend waiting 2 minutes before you run the next one through.
As a group, all the way. Wait another 2 minutes.
Yeah, if you did 4 to 8 in a row. And the reason for that is it gives the system a chance, because the gum's applying itself to all these plates, and if you do 4 or 8 in a row,
Yeah.
it's going to start to not catch up. So if you give it 2 minutes, it'll catch up, and then it'll be ready again. Yeah.
So we can do 4 to 8 and then wait 2 minutes and another 4 to 8.
Yeah, and I don't know that you'll be running that many anyhow in a row.
We could.
Oh, you could?
Yeah,
Okay.
there are students waiting to
okay.
print, and we could do 4 to 8 at a time.
Yeah, then just keep that in mind.
Okay. So you just place the plate on it, and then it automatically
Yeah,
is
as soon
pulling
as
up.
this gets past here, you'll remember there's a little black dot there.
Okay.
That little black dot's actually a sensor. And then it has a mechanical sensor with an arm that's back inside here.
Okay.
So don't push it into that mechanical arm. Just sit it on there and let it get past that first one, and then let it take it into the arm sensor. Otherwise, you could get an error code. The normal look here is this green dot should be solid when you're feeding a plate. If it's green and flashing, it just means it's processing, which we are. We're processing the plate. So it's still okay to put another plate in as long as you remember the 2-inch thing. You have a 2-inch gap between the plates.
And how hot is it?
How hot is it?
Yeah, when it's
100.
baking.
180 degrees. So it'll be, the plate gets pretty warm. Yeah. And if you have a lamp go out, you'll get an error code. So then, they used to give you a spare. I think let's check that box. See if they give you. I think they used to give you a spare ball. Here's one. Yeah, lamp. Now there's bulbs or something that they go inside this unit, and you would never want to touch those bulbs with your fingers. If you do, and you power it up, it blows on it. So if you would happen to touch a bulb, we used to do that with other bulb systems years ago. You just take alcohol and go over the bulb. It cleans the oils from your fingers off, because that's what it does. Yeah, they have gloves there. Yep. Okay. That's pretty much it. So once your IT department gets your spool folders shared on all your Macs, you guys are going to be able to, do that. But you'll have those 2 folders in there. You drop it into one. I have it all tied into the page setup so that it'll do the size that you have. Now, was the orientation correct on that plate? Was it in the right position? That's something else we'll have to look at when it comes out here. Okay, keep that in mind. I don't know if
I mean, if it's a template, it
shouldn't be a
matter.
problem. Correct. If you're doing the template, it shouldn't matter. But say your template, when you had your job come in here, say it came in the wrong orientation, at that point we could fix that in that page setup. Remember we had the orientation settings? All we would have to do, if say that would happen to you, I just went to sleep. And this does have a password on it now. Because we put that on, it's RIP, so you may want to write that down then. It didn't earlier, but we did that just to try to fix that issue. Let me close this. So if you needed to change the orientation, this flashlight's on, so we need to stop it. Then you would go in here to Page Setup Manager. You'd change the one the orientation was wrong on. So say I wanted the 15 3/4 one, I would double click it, and right here I would switch this to whatever setting I needed. So say it was 90, you can see this image actually change here when you switch it. It shows you what it's doing. So it's flipping at 90 degrees clockwise. So then anytime you make any change, you always want to hit OK when you leave, or it won't save the
Or
changes.
then that way we should put the plate on the landscape way.
No,
No?
you're still only,
Oh,
you're
it's the
always
same
going to
way.
load it the same way. Yeah. Now all we're doing is flipping the
Same
image
way.
that's on the plate if it was wrong. So now I'm going to go back in there and switch that back because we don't know if that needs to be done or not at this point. So you just hit OK and OK, and then you always want to hit the green light to get the flashlight looking for jobs in those hot folders.
Okay, we're going to just keep it as it is because we're using template, right? All right.
So now, after it cures it, it's going to put gum on it, and then it'll go out. Now, they did send some of this plate cleaner, too. You don't have to use this,
What is that for?
but that's basically if your plate's not being as receptive to ink as it should be, you can use the plate cleaner, clean it, and then try it again.
Before you print.
Only if you have to. Yeah. Yeah.
Before you print or before you plate?
No, I'm talking before you print.
Before you
Yeah.
print.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be something that after all this is done. Yeah.
After all is done, we try to ink it and it doesn't.
Right, it's not being receptive to the ink.
Then use this.
And use the plate cleaner.
How did you make sure that the plate size was the right plate size?
How did I?
Yeah, what was the...
Because if you look on the box, it's 15 3.
No, in the computer. Like
Okay,
this-
I programmed all that, but the way
Oh.
you ensure you get it to the right ones, you drop it in
Just,
the right folder.
okay. And then
Because I
it
have
should-
those tied to the page setups for that size.
Oh, okay.
So I kept the names the same throughout. So let me show you. So the name's right on the spool folder. See, it's the plate size. Then in the page setup here, I have the names the same name.
Yeah.
So that way you don't get confused when you're getting around, and this is where all the configuration took place. Then to actually get it from that spool folder, I had kept the names the same in the input controller as well. Okay. Did that answer your question? Okay. So yeah, this. And there's our plate.
Also the folder has that size. That's the difference.
Okay.
Oh, it's already gone.
Yep.
Oh.
So the plate went in like this.
Mhm.
I mean, it came out like this, and then we just dropped it down and ran it through.
Mhm.
So let's look at the image here. So if we hit Rome, and then reduce Rome,
So that's the interesting because it gave more room here than here. Why is that?
because of the way the file came in, it might be, it's centering it this direction. So it's probably, yeah, and that looks about centered in this direction. And that would be, if you look in your page layout here,
Yeah.
center page on media length. So it's centering it on the length. We could do center on width, but then that takes away your control to, maybe you want that though.
Both, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we did that, we could run another plate. Actually, we could run the same plate.
Let's,
That way we don't waste one.